What Jamie asked me to talk about is approaches to designing shirts and shirt details. So this is not really a techniques presentation, but rather one that will cover a compendium of possibilities for working with shirts. How many of you attended the shirt making workshop? Oh, great. Okay, I'm so sorry I had to miss it. I do hope that this sets nicely against what you all learned and will kind of build on what you've learned anyway. Okay, one of the things I love about shirts is that a shirt is really a block that just sort of asks to be designed. We don't often think about it because we're so used to buying sort of basic shirts, and but really a shirt it just sort of asks for couture details. And there are lots of ways to approach your own shirt making, and from my perspective, I think it really begins with finding some shirt silhouettes that work for you and that you feel comfortable in. And so there are lots of ways to get at that. So I thought a place to start today would be to look at 4 basic shirt silhouettes, things that you all are familiar with, but you may not have thought about them as a kind of wardrobe of shirts and how you might go about making some choices. The first shirt that, oh, and also too, this is really focusing on the classic button-up collared shirt. Rather than blouses that have other sorts of details. But a lot of this will apply to that if that happens to be your sewing interest. The classic shirt is a shirt that is kind of boxy, has a collar band, a collar, cuffs. If you've looked at Ralph Lauren shirts, there aren't any darts. They're kind of boxy, and they really work well for certain figure types. And they're neither particular. There's not a lot of ease in them, nor are they particularly fitted. The next are what I like to think of as close-fitting shirts, and the close-fitting shirt can be achieved by either having princess seams from the armhole or princess seams from the shoulder, or a combination of those, and then also waist shaping from at the side, but most importantly, back shaping. And these kinds of shirts work really well regardless of your body type if you get them to fit right. And they skim the body. From there we can move to really what is a close-fitting shirt, which starts with pretty much a close-fitting shirt into a very fitted shirt. And these also work if they fit right. A close-fitting shirt that doesn't fit right, that gapes at the front, is not particularly attractive, regardless of what your body type is or how you feel about your body. So again, it becomes a matter of the right fit. And then finally, there are shirts that are loose or very loose fitting. And again, we often think about, oh, well, I'm not particularly happy with my body, so I'm just going to wear these kind of loose fitting shirts. And generally what happens, it looks like the shirt is wearing you. And they look really sloppy because they don't fit. So the challenge there with a loose-fitting shirt is to get the right amount of ease for your silhouette. And again, that just takes trial and error. I think that if you're really serious about getting into shirt making and you want to sort of begin to develop your skills, I think it's not a bad idea to take 2 or 3 silhouettes and then work on 2 or 3 muslins until you get the fit that is just right for you. You can start with a commercial pattern, and Vogue has some patterns that work quite well that are their size, but they have cut sizes. So you can cut an A, B, C, D, and you get close. It may not be as refined. If you really want a really good fit, then it might be worth your money to have a pattern maker make a shirt for you and make a block for you that you can then just design from as you move forward. So and there are people around that do that, and it's quite a joyous experience, actually. If you always wanted to wear shirts but you haven't done that because you haven't been happy with how you look in them, because if they fit your bust, they're huge here and they hang down, or if they fit you here, you're like always trying to safety pin that or sew yourself in or something, you know, you got it. Now, just in terms of fit, I brought several samples of things. So what I'd like to do is just take this for a minute. These are from the same pattern, and this is a close-fitting shirt. And so, but it's fairly roomy. These are made for me. And it has princess seams. Now this shirt is the same pattern, but I adapted it for this is a very fitted shirt. And you'll note that I put a lot of buttons on it. Now how did I get from here to here? It was not a big jump. It was in each of these seams about 1/8 of an inch is all it took. Because if you take 1/8 in, that's a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, and then you've got 1 inch. But what I did here, and we'll go over these details because that's a separate conversation. What I did here was put a seam down the back and was able to get back shaping. And you notice we all have a curve here, and if your shirt falls straight down, there's a lot of excess fabric there. It's very easy to fix, so all you have to do in the sort of standard waist shaping is 3/8 of an inch. So you take it in at the waist, 3/8 of an inch here, 0 at the cross back, and 0 about 7 inches up from the low hip. So you just take it and you just draw it, and then you make it a nice curve. And what that does is it brings the shirt in. You can see here that I put a seam in this one. All right. And so it's a great way to get shaping. And then I also took a little bit out here, which gave more shaping. But to make it wearable and to make this shirt, I call this shirt the Ribbon Lab, because this was a test for a lot of different things I wanted to try out. One of the things I wanted to try out was what happens if you put the front panels and the back panels on the bias. So this is a fairly stable fabric here. And so what I did is I cut this panel here on the bias. So it just shapes a little bit. It gives a little more bust shaping that I actually need and took away from here when I took it in. And I put, excuse me, the back also on the bias here. So these two panels, and this shirt has,
the center or the side panels?
The center.
Center panels,
Yes.
okay.
And this shirt has been worn a lot, washed a lot, ironed a lot. And so it has really held up. I didn't know whether these things would start to sag over time, but it's held up really well. But if you choose to do this, you must use a sew-on placket and put the placket on the grain, because then you would end up with this, which we'll talk about plackets in a minute. But you can sort of see the size difference and the fit. Yeah.
The second one, it doesn't look like you put buttonholes on there.
This one?
Yes.
I stopped the button here.
Okay.
I stopped the buttonholes here. And what happens is I pin this because there's no buttons, that it then opens up a little bit. I also made a really tiny collar on it, and I mean, did some other things, but it will open up, it opens up a little bit because I took all the E's out here.
But did you have those buttons that you have? Are those workable buttons?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Buttonholes are my nemesis.
Well, I'll give you some ways around that,
Okay.
okay, to think about anyway. So, and this, by the way, is a Tana lawn, Liberty of London. Those of you that know this fabric is so fabulous. Out here, they have some Italian lawns that feel very much like this, and they're only $15 a yard. And so I would encourage you to purchase a few.
But I forgot to tell y'all, we got the Super Bowl sale coming Friday and Saturday, but they're gonna honor it today, and that is 35% off. And I'm sorry that dawned on me to remind you when you told us to buy fabric. Penny, let's put your purse over here.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
but I don't
want
have
you-
to wander.
I don't want you to trip.
Okay, now, this shirt is, for me, what I would call an oversized shirt. And I really like these for wearing in the summer. Those of you that know how hot it is here, these are really roomy. So I use this pattern a lot, and I do a lot of different things with it, which we'll talk about. Okay, now, places to design on a shirt. And if you'll flip over to the next page, this is why I think shirts are so fun, because they just ask for you to work with them. So the possibilities here, and I didn't do any of this on this shirt because it's all one, is that the placket. Plackets down the front and can become a really significant design feature. And many of shirts have fold over facings. They're cut on and you fold them over. And you can stitch them and they can sort of look like a placket, but you can't do anything with them because it's all part of the shirt. Now, if you were sewing with, say, a double gauze, and you have two sides to your fabric, you can reverse fold it, and rather than folding it this way, fold it this way and stitch it down. And it looks like a sew-on placket, even though it's not, which is what this shirt has. This is a cut-on placket, and I turned it this way because of the stripe. You can't even see it. I don't know why I went on, but it's stitched on space here. But if you flip it over, it's continuous on the back. So, but if you will then think about a placket as an add-on, a sew-on, rather than a cut-on, you then have lots of different options. Not only can you cut your bias on the front, you then use a sew-on placket. This is a sew-on placket, and it allows you to get this part of the garment on the straight of the grain. So plackets are an absolute necessity for shirts. And if you're going to do placket designs, it's best to do them before you put the whole shirt together and work through. I often will do my buttonholes before I get the shirt together, just in case I screw up the buttonholes, which happens. I can recut a front, and I'm not stuck with it. Now, one of the possibilities of plackets are you can have a hidden placket, button placket. And these are cut on also. And they're quite simple. They're a series of folds. So if you have button phobia, try this. Now, Jamie's my visual aid. Here, just stand up. She bought the shirt, but this is a really great idea. This is a hidden button placket with buttons here exposed. So it's a combination of both, and you can see this is such a nice detail, the placement of those buttons. So that's a great, thank you. So that's a great possibility. This is a little taffeta shirt, and I think this was actually home deck fabric. The Fabric has a bunch of these. They've got some that are really inexpensive, silk embroidered for $15 a yard. Buy yourself some and make yourself a little taffeta shirt. They're just really fun to wear, and they can be a little more dressy, and you can also size them however you want to size them. Now, addition to the button placket, have the collar. So you have not just a collar, but you have an upper collar and under collar. And the collar attaches to the collar stand or the collar band. They're both the same. And you also have an outer band and an inner band. So you can see all of these pieces just sort of screen design and things that you can do with them. And depending on how you like to wear your shirts, I personally prefer to wear my collars up, and so sometimes if you have a rather short neck, you can shorten your stand and shorten your collar, and then you have a smaller stand-up collar like this one, which is really, you can see the difference here. It's quite significant.